morning and welcome to By the People. My name is Dr. Janet Gain and I'm your host for a very special show examining how character creates opportunity. My guest is David Esposito, Managing Partner of Harvest Time Partners. Hello David and welcome to By the People.
Hey Janet, good morning. Thanks for having us.
You're more than welcome. What brings you to our community of Western New York? I know you have a message regarding character creates opportunity, and you believe very passionately in how character and leadership needs to be developed and has been developed in certain pockets of our communities. But what is it that you have had in your own personal experiences that has started this journey for you?
Sure, Janet, thank you. I think the importance that character creates opportunity, you can see it all around us, and certainly in the mission of our organization, Harvest Time Partners, is to be able to support and develop the strengthening of character in individuals, families, and organizations to be able to deal with the complexity that we have in life today. And so when I look back either through my own life or also in the lives of others through study, the importance of principles of trust, commitment, and loyalty to deal with the ups and downs that we have in life is an important segment for people to address, regardless of the complexity in front of them. And the organization that we have, Harvest Time Partners, is really designed to provide tools and resources to people in communities like the greater Buffalo, Western New York area to reinforce principle-based decision-making and dealing with the complexity of the world we live in today.
Our world has changed. It's become a very complex place. Matter of fact, we have a slide that we'd like to bring up and just show you how our world, again, is no longer simple and predictable. Maybe you'd like to take that as kind of a platform for explaining what has changed in our world, what has made it difficult to make the right decision, or a decision that moves you forward rather than backwards.
Sure, I think the complexity of our world today certainly creates a fair amount of uncertainty and anxiety in people's lives. And certainly in the past there was complexity for sure in the world, but when you think about even the recent events, the rise in violence due to guns in schools, the variety of issues that are faced in the marketplace from a financial standpoint, when you look at our economic situation, many of the things that in the past would think, well, I get a good education, get a good job, I can continue to work and thrive. Those things have changed dramatically over the last decade or so. Think of our global impact in terms of the complexity of our world. That impacts people in their lives. And so what we try to inform and address with people that regardless of the complexity that we have in our lives, the ability to anchor decisions and actions based on principles like perseverance, loyalty, and commitment, certainly in relationships or in running a business, is critically important. And I think as we look in today's world, there is a fair amount of complexity and confusion, both in the short term and long term, and certainly principles are able to support people's steps along that journey in life.
Right, and you're a family man, so you know the complexities that we're all dealing with in raising families today in the environment that we see throughout the world.
That's right. So I've married for almost 20 years, have 4 children, and 2 of them are teenage daughters and 2 boys in middle school and elementary school. I think the principles of raising strong children to deal with the complexities of the world haven't really changed in generations. Things like honesty in relationships, trust in relationships are critical, but certainly how those relationships develop in today's world is very different than when you and I were growing up. The time of text, instant messaging, the globalization of various social media aspects certainly takes on a different twist, and I'd say a much more rapid pace of change in the lives of our children. So the importance of being able to deal with that change in a very principle-centered way is critically important. And certainly my wife and I, we have our ups and downs like everybody else in raising children that way, but the importance of taking that long-term perspective and how important principles are in the ability to build strong relationships is very critical.
And you know, actually there are studies out saying that with texting as the main form of communication for youth, they're actually 6 years behind in their ability to effectively communicate with human beings.
Well, that's an important fact, because you think regardless of the way our social media circles are changing
Right.
and moving very fast, people like you and I and our children still at the end of the day will have to at some point stand in front of people and either make a sales pitch, create a presentation, close a deal, build a strong, healthy, long-term relationship. Those things are still done in a very authentic, face-to-face manner, and so those skills are certainly critical in terms of dealing with the world today, even though we have a number of different channels that people
Right.
communicate with.
And those are all great examples, because character isn't limited to one specific audience or one specific demographic. Character we have had good experiences with, historically speaking. When you look at some of the presidents that have preceded current administrations, when you see some of the faith leaders, including the new pope that's just come on board, and how people gather and want to see how this person will lead, a world, in a sense. We see the chance for good character everywhere, but we also have had some of those disappointments along the way when somebody falls from being someone of good character.
Correct. I think that's the challenges that have been present for a while in our world with regards to examples of strength and doing the right thing,
Right.
so to speak, but also another strong, timeless principle are things like mercy and grace. When people do stumble and fall, to be able to support and encourage them to get back up and get back into the race. And I think you've mentioned a number of different recent examples of people who certainly have had an internal compass to drive towards a long-term perspective on love and trust and commitment. And I think of today's soldiers that are in a number of
Absolutely.
different areas around the world, and a variety of different political ideologies around the world, and certainly rigorous debate in our own country. But those men and women in our armed services get up every day. They're loading up weapons. They're going out on patrol. They're doing that in a very committed, loyal way. And those are the kind of principle-based actions that should be highlighted and recognized, because whether you're on the front lines defending on the forward edge of freedom, or you're in today's marketplace in the United States, or you're raising a family, those principles of commitment, loyalty, honesty, perseverance, whether we're in the upturn or the downturn of an
Absolutely.
economic cycle, are very critical for all generations to reinforce appropriate behaviors and getting the right thing done.
Exactly. And I want to show a couple more slides that you have provided us with. And if you want to just take us through the presentation of the information here.
Sure. So I think what we've established with Harvest Time Partners is a brand of resources under the brand of Character Creates Opportunity to describe to people that there is the opportunity to have a positive impact in our world, whether it's in running a business in the workplace, in the home, or in the community, in that decisions and actions based on principles in a workplace of work ethic, of honesty,
Right.
can certainly help support the growth and development of a business, regardless of the difficulties in the external environment. Those businesses that operate with leaders and employees that can be trusted in the execution of their duties don't need to be burdened with significant policies and regulations that may
Right.
slow down their go-to-market. Certainly when you think about relationships, whether it's a marriage relationship or the raising of children, the ability to operate in an environment of respect and trust and empathy, knowing that everybody has a variety of different experiences, but learning to listen first before reacting, are critical skills of embodying strong character that can help a family strengthen
Right.
and develop, sustain
Right.
good relationships, can help a business certainly grow in the marketplace.
Right. And you've provided us with one of Aristotle's quotes.
Right, so I think the important part that we try to emphasize too is the power of habits over time.
Exactly.
That ultimately can drive towards excellence. We're all on a journey. We're going to take a few steps forward, maybe a step back every now and then, but the ability to make the habits of our lives aligned with correct principles can really help accomplish things
Right.
in our lives. And when you think about certainly what Aristotle was describing there, not only the importance in youth, but our habits in terms of our thoughts and actions are
Right.
very critical to building sustained relationships. So our thoughts about our spouse or our children, our thoughts about our coworkers in the workplace, the positive side of those thoughts, there's been a tremendous amount of academic research that would say,
Right.
as you think, there eventually becomes. And so the importance of those positive thoughts, but then ultimately what translates into positive actions
Right.
of support for a leader for his or her team, support for a child going through a difficult time period. Those
Right.
positive thoughts and positive actions should become the habits of our lives. And as Aristotle said, that will be the foundation for excellence in our lives.
Right. All right, let's go through some more of the information you've provided us with that supports the platform for
Sure.
Character Creates Opportunity.
You know, and I would emphasize as we bring up those other slides, the importance of character development
Right.
at all stages of life. So what our organization emphasizes is the tools and resources to be able to support that elementary school, high school, and college age student, but then also adults like you and I in the workplace. And the importance that we try to establish, that principle-based decision making really encompasses all aspects of life.
You know, I just put this out on kind of a thought around an example, but when I was recently lecturing at a college and gave the example of if you were at a buffet and you're told you can go through the line once, and you go through the line once, but you start to pocket some food to save for later. Is that considered, you know, ethical, or are you actually going through the line a second time by doing that, by taking extra things and, you know, kind of harboring it for later? And there wasn't one person who could directly respond yes or no.
Yeah, I think those are very good real-world examples that happen and can be the foundation for, I would say, good discussions
Right,
in the home
right.
and in the school to be able to really understand what would be the appropriate, proper choice in those. And I think to your example there are numerous examples to think about in the workplace around that. People are filing expense reports on how they do things, right? And in the marketplace is full of examples of very senior level executives who have stumbled
Right.
and caused significant downfall and harm, not just to the businesses, but to the people who are employed there. And those are very significant issues that ultimately have the foundation of character at heart. And so the decisions to make those choices of honesty in relationships are very significant. They start when they're very young,
Right,
but
right,
one
right.
of the key pieces we emphasize in our teaching is that, you know, there's a certain amount of nature or nurture in these discussions of is it a bit of hard wiring and is it nurturing from good parenting? That's a piece of it, but what we try to emphasize in our programs and services is that you and I and individuals, we make a choice. We're responsible for the choices that we make. Responsible is a key character trait. To know that, yes, there's a variety of different influences in this world, but I interpret all those influences and then make the choice, and I own the choice. And that ability to be responsible for those decisions, whether I'm a corporate CEO or whether I'm a mom or a dad working
Right.
to build and sustain
Absolutely.
a strong family, I own those choices. And we think in what we try to provide the resources to be able to support choices that are anchored in principles like love, decency, determination, respect, to be able to support healthy relationships in the workplace, healthy relationships at home, and what we hope with that spills over into healthy relationships in the community.
And not using excuses.
Very much so, you're right. There's probably a fair amount of the blame game or excuses. Hey, you know, there's a lot of difficult situations out there, and the history books and today's newspapers are full of examples of people who were brought up in difficult situations
Right.
and rose to do great things and have great impact. There are those who are brought up in what we maybe describe very fortunate, beneficial situations, but have somehow kind of fallen to the wayside. So I think it's important that at some point we all reach that level of where I own the decisions I make, I'm responsible for my actions, and what we try to emphasize is the best way, the most effective way to build and sustain positive impact in relationships and in life is through timeless and universal principles like trust, like commitment, like loyalty, to be able to support a much more productive path on the journey of life that we're all on.
Great. We're going to take a quick break now, but you're going to want to stay with us because when we come back, David has a special announcement for all of Western New Yorkers. Thank you. Welcome back to By the People. I'm Dr. Janet Gain, and our show today has been featuring the theme Character Creates Opportunity. With me is David Esposito, Managing Partner of Harvest Time Partners. David's credentials include serving as a leader in corporate America in combat operations, which earned him a Bronze Star. David's own journey in character and leadership development has provided him with a passion for demonstrating the theme, what we sow, we reap. Welcome back, David.
Hi, thank you, Janet.
I want to talk about that theme, Character
Sure.
Creates Opportunity. And I know we have a slide that we're going to bring up on it, but just walk us through that whole idea.
Sure, I think what we tried to describe with Character Creates Opportunity is a bit that life is a journey and not a destination. And as you see on the slide, the law of the harvest, you reap what you sow, that in essence, people can take accountability for their actions. And we think the most effective decisions and actions are those based on principles of
Right.
hard work, in character, supporting character development. And the law of the harvest that we describe, just like you would with a farmer in a field, knows that at some point they have to plant and prepare, have to plant the seed, cultivate that ground and that seed to be able to then reap a harvest in the fall season. Very similar in our own life's journey, that we need to kind of plan where we want to go. So where are we going
Right.
in that? Be able to take the steps in preparation to be able to work that plan to
Right.
ultimately reap an abundant harvest in our lives. And the theme Character Creates Opportunity is based on that overall law of the harvest, and that regardless of the environment we live in, we need a plan. We need to set a
Right.
destination for ourselves and build that plan. And we think through the context of that, the utilization or the anchoring of our decisions on timeless and universal principles like hard work,
Right.
like trust and honesty, is the best way to create opportunities in our lives. When we think about building
Right.
strong relationships, trust is a critical element of those relationships. So the character display of trust in relationships will create opportunities for strong relationships. The ability of hard work and ethics in the conduct of business will create opportunities in the marketplace for businesses to grow and develop. And we think the same for our community, whether it's a political individual or a person serving in a local police or fire department. The issues of character development
Right.
will support opportunities to improve our communities and our schools. And that's how the theme really comes about, that regardless of the external environment,
Right.
anchoring on character development will certainly create opportunities for others.
And you're providing an opportunity for Western New York. That's part of the mission for you coming here from Michigan, I might
Right.
add. But it's to introduce our community to embracing this theme because you want to make a generous gift to help students not only understand what character is, but apply themselves appropriately with a possible reward for that. Do you want to tell us about it?
Certainly. So we have had an affiliation with the Buffalo community for quite a while now, in the greater Western New York community, and we want to utilize Character Creates Opportunity to be able to support students in their continuing education efforts.
Right.
And so we are working and beginning to dialogue with several local organizations to be able to support a scholarship program for high school seniors in the greater Western New York area. And we're working through various criteria of what we describe are strong character behaviors and individuals who are demonstrating an example of strong character. Seniors, to be able to recognize them with grants, scholarship grants, to be able to go to the university of their choice. And we're working through that with several local communities, and we hope to be able to sponsor in the neighborhood of several $1,000s over what we hope is a very extended period of time to be able to support individuals who are displaying strong character to continue their education.
Right, and I think that is a really noble mission in showing your own character and leadership, but also I know you have suggested even the idea of once students receive the scholarship, having a mentoring program to make sure that that scholarship recipient follows through with pursuing a really great education that gives them the foundation for a lifelong learning experience.
Correct. It plays along our theme that life is a journey. So what we'd like to try to do, and again, we're working with a number of local communities to be able to properly frame this out and then begin to execute on it.
Right.
And what we see is that hopefully the recognition of strong character in high school seniors with the awarding of these scholarship grants then gives the ability for a local advocate in the community or our own organization to partner with that individual and mentor that individual as they continue in their academic journey,
Right.
but then also as they hopefully move on to the workforce and be productive members of society. We would like to maintain those established relationships to continue to grow and develop those individuals and strengthen their character over time, and we hope we can reap an abundant harvest with those opportunities.
And you know, your mission of now naming scholarships for this area for students also kind of shows your journey. You started with creating a board game for Character Creates Opportunity.
That's right. So we, as part of Harvest Time Partners, one of the initial resources we developed was a board game called Abundant Harvest. It came out of work that my wife and I had done both in the raising of our 4 children, but also some work in supporting marriage and families in many parts of the country. We developed a conversation game basically to encourage open conversation between parents and children on the difficult and complex issues they face in life. And the board game Abundant Harvest, there's a kids version and a teen and adult version, and it helps parents and children
Right.
kind of walk through those situations and then really address together how I would respond in certain difficult situations. It provides an opportunity for open dialogue with parents and children to be able to address, again, the complexity of life today.
And I want to be sure that Western New Yorkers know that you made a number of those board game contributions to our community. Places like Kids Escaping Drugs and Alcohol, Baker Victory Educational Services. I know the
Ronald McDonald House.
Ronald
we also
McDonald
did some.
House, yes, the Boys Club of America. I mean, a number of those organizations have written back and have shared their comments about what they learned playing that game or how they felt about some of the questions that they had to make a decision or react to. So I think that your involvement in the community has been now more than a year in standing, and I want people to know that we certainly would be providing on WIVB the information about how to qualify for a scholarship, what the basic parameters would be, what the deadlines would be for submission, and what the scholarship would cover. But in the interim, this is the information for contact should you have any questions that you want to pose to David Esposito or the foundation, because we don't plan on this being a short-term, but a long-term relationship with the Western New York community and providing every student an equal opportunity to apply for a college scholarship to fund their dreams, because that's basically what it will help many do. So David, just talk to us briefly before we leave the show in an audience. What do you hope will be your legacy using this theme of Character Creates Opportunity? Do you plan to publish books? Do you plan to do training seminars?
Certainly. So the organization Harvest Time Partners, we continue to develop resources that are, we hope, and the marketplace views as very practical and relevant in the application of improving and strengthening individuals' character. So we continue to develop those resources. We have a number of books that are being worked on right now, and certainly in the coming months and years we'll have a number of those. We also do a number of different seminars and presentations to be able to support individuals, families, and organizations with very practical tools to help them. So we hope to continue to do that, and we hope to have the kind of impact that gains people's perspective that life is a journey, and along that way we're going to have a series of ups and downs. But ultimately, if we can continue to grow and develop our character based on making decisions that are anchored in principles like trust and honesty and loyalty, that at the end of the day, we will reap an abundant harvest throughout our life. So we hope that theme of you reap what you sow can take hold in people's lives, and we want to provide resources that be able to support that.
And I'd like to say, for the record, that I'm very appreciative of CBS WIVB providing us the platform to discuss this topic, because you and I have discussed it in entertainment specifically.
Right.
A lot of youth are seeing what we wouldn't consider ideal role modeling.
Very true. Well, I think you can open up the papers or look at the TV or surf the internet, and there's a variety of positive and negatives out there. And we think, certainly kids today are bombarded perhaps with a greater emphasis on not the best role models and behaviors. And so I think it's up to us in the community, and certainly stations like this, to be able to support the elevating of good positive examples in our communities, so that our children can see those very productive ways to have a positive impact in our world. And I think that's very important.
And before we close, we have just a few minutes left, but just tell me briefly, your military experience, what was the most important thing you learned through that experience that has fostered part of your drive for leadership and character?
Well, certainly. So I was graduated from West Point, served with the 101st Airborne Division in Operation Desert Storm back in the early 90s.
Right.
So I was a rifle platoon leader with the 101st Airborne. I think
your main thing that you learned.
I think the key piece is that everything rises and falls with leadership. And leadership involves setting direction, rallying a team to a cause, and then supporting and developing your people to accomplish that mission. And I think that aspect of the critical nature of leadership, and leaders that embody the character that we just spent time talking about, is critical to the accomplishment of a mission, to the support of a team.
And to all of our lives.
Very much so.
Thank you so much, David Esposito. And thank you for joining us today on By the People.